So, I mean, I feel trapped talking about this particular movie because of that. So, anyway,
wait till they watch the video when I show everyone these.
Problem solved. Then. So,
I mean, really, basically, at the end of the day, when you watch one of our reviews, you've seen the movie in most cases. So
you've seen the movie in a theater with two assholes that won't shut the fuck up while you're trying to watch it.
So you're welcome.
I'm just saying. Look, I don't know what niche it is that we fill, but we fill the fuck out of it. So.
He's Tony. I'm Mike. We're here to watch Will Burn in this episode 2004's Eurotrip. This came out in a time when like sex comedies were making a nice comeback. You had, American Pie. I'm blanking, but there was a shit ton of them. This one, it didn't do very well.
No. Actually, it lost money. And yeah. I was surprised when I was reading about that because like this is a well-remembered movie, but apparently I don't know, it struck the wrong note. I don't
think I heard about it because I didn't know anything about this movie until a band I was playing in at the time was quoting it, and I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And they're like, "Eurotrip." Like, what the fuck is Eurotrip? And that's how I was introduced to it. So yeah, I knew nothing about it. I never saw it on cable. Never saw it advertised in theaters. Where did you stumble upon it?
I stumbled upon it on cable.
Really?
It was one of those like, what is Eurotrip? And oh well, that's Eurotrip. Okay, I've seen that. But I mean, it's weird reading about this movie and seeing what it cost. Because this movie had a $25 million budget. And then what's even weirder is that like they filmed almost all of it in Prague. So it ties into last week's movie.
Yes, it does.
It had, 2.5 times the budget of Anthropoid. And that was 2004 money. So, like I said, finding out like the high school was in Prague, that they used a very specific school for that, they dressed different buildings, historic buildings in Prague to stand in for like the Vatican and for other couple historical locations. It was weird reading about it and realizing it's like, you've already gone to Europe. Why don't you just go to these places? But then, I mean, they had $25 million. I'm trying to figure out what was the problem.
I'm sure filming at the Vatican is quite costly and probably next to impossible because it is the Vatican.
Well, the Vatican I'll give you, but what about the Louvre? And they don't even actually go into the Louvre. They stand outside the Louvre. The
line is a mile long. They do stop on the hottie.
They stop at the beach.
So anyways, let's get into this. So the film is directed by Jeff Schaefer, who's not really known for directing movies. He directed one other movie beyond this that I saw. Mostly known really for his writing. He wrote for Curb Your Enthusiasm, The League, and Seinfeld.
Okay. That kind of makes sense because, this movie is all about absurdist humor. Just like the most wacky stuff happening. So that stands to reason.
Yeah.
But.
So he also wrote this movie with two partners, Alec Berg and David Mandel.
And there was two more partners that are uncredited, and that would be Jack Daniels and Mary Jane.
That's some absinthe.
Obviously.
Let's see.
Nobody wrote this movie when they were sober. Don't even. This is the kind of shit that you like write when you're in rehab and you're coming down off the drugs and you're like remembering that what a good time it was to be that high, and then you're like, oh, I went to Europe this time. Wait, let me write this down. So, trust me.
Going back to that, it almost makes you wonder how much this was like partly autobiographical. You know, like. Did they have some crazy adventure while they're in Amsterdam? Did they have some weird adventure where they're in Germany or some of these other places?
No. This is exactly the kind of conversation that one of your buddies tells you that, like, yeah, after graduation, they're going to go to, Europe and backpack. And this is the shit you cook up, the scenarios you cook up that you hope will happen or hope don't happen. And that's the gist of it in a nutshell.
You're probably right.
There's nothing, factually speaking. There's they got a lot wrong.
Oh, sure. I mean, it is a sex comedy, so
well, yeah. But
if you want accuracy, go back to Anthropoid.
Has anybody in this movie? Was there any breakout performers in this?
No, not a one. Speaking of the actors, we have Scott Oh God, this is a tough one. Scott Miklowicz. Thank you, Scott Miklowicz as Scotty. Scotty didn't do much after this movie. He did this movie called Gone with Amanda Seyfried and. Demonic.
He was.
So there's that. Next we have Jacob Pitts as Cooper. He didn't do too much of movies either. The only movie of note he did was the movie 21, the gambling movie with Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, and hitching your wagon to that was a bad call, Ripley. It was a bad call.
But he did a lot of TV work. He did multiple episodes of Justified, The Sinner, and Sneaky Pete. Okay. So he did have some career.
He's a working actor.
Absolutely working actor. Yeah. Michelle Trachtenberg as Jen. Her other movies were Black Christmas, Ice Princess, Inspector Gadget. And then she did TV, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like you had mentioned earlier, Mercy, Weeds, Gossip Girl, and Robot Chicken.
Okay. Well, was she Penny in the Inspector Gadget movie?
She was.
And was it the original Inspector Gadget movie with Matthew Broderick, or was it the second sequel that was just complete?
I believe it was the original. Moving on, we got Travis Wester as Jamie, who plays Jen's fraternal twin. He wasn't in any other movies of any note, but he did do some other TV. He did some episodes of Supernatural and Ghostfacers, which I have never heard of. I have no idea what it is.
One of those bullshit reality TV shows where they go ghost hunting, or is it like an actual show?
I didn't know. I didn't care enough to look.
Fair enough. I don't blame you. So the minute you see the title Ghost Chasers, you know it's just a giant shit sandwich that's going to be playing on Bravo on Labor Day weekend marathon. So,
well, it's not even a cool name like Ghost Chasers. It's Ghost Facers.
Yeah, sure, whatever. So
exactly. Exactly.
Like it matters.
No, it doesn't. So, anyways, Jessica, I think is this pronounced Beers?
Sure, let's go with that. Beirs?
No, Boehrs. Boers? It's German.
Boers, yeah, Boers.
Jessica Boers as Mike, or Mika, as you come to find out what it's really called. She's actually a German-born actress. She did movies, but they're all in Germany, so there's no point in telling you what they are. She was also the singer of a German group called Nova Space, and they apparently had multiple hits in Europe.
So she's a quadruple threat.
Okay, well, she's hot.
She sings, she acts, and she's got a great rack. So
fair enough.
That's four. So
That works. That works.
Oh.
So there's a shit ton of cameos in this movie. You got cameos by Matt Damon, Lucy Lawless, Dietrich Bader, Jeffrey Tambor, Patrick Malahide, Fred Armisen, Vinnie Jones, and Kristen Crook. I'm gonna give a special shout out to I'm gonna butcher this name. Sorry, dude. Niall
Ishkakov. Yeah, yeah, Ishkakov.
Yeah.
You're giving a special shout out to Niall Nishnikov. So
thank you. Who plays Scott's brother Bert? That kid is fucking hilarious.
You know, he is not on screen much, but when he's on screen, it is funny.
Yes, he owns it, and he plays the little brother to a T. Antagonistic, quick-witted, and just like takes every opportunity to rip you to shreds.
Are we ready to dig into the plot of this movie?
We are ready to dig in.
This plot, it's a haiku. I don't know how deep a dive you want to do on this one, because really at the end of the day, there's not a lot that goes on.
There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of situations that goes on. The plot is paper thin. I'll give you that all day long. It's, boy gets dumped. Boy finds out that his pen pal's this hot chick that he confuses for a dude, and then goes on an adventure to win said hot chick. That's the plot.
In a nutshell, yeah.
But everything else in between is fucking awesome and gold, and I love every bit of it.
So, I mean, I don't, like I said, it starts off with, they graduating high school, and Fiona, his girlfriend, breaks up with him right there after the graduation ceremony. Then they decide to go to the party.
And, well, hang on. So he gets dumped, but it's being videotaped. So they're catching all this on videotape. So you see him breaking down. Bert, his little brother, and Cooper, they're sitting down watching the tape of him getting dumped by Fiona. And Cooper's like, let's watch it again. And he rewinds it again and plays the whole thing again. And then he gets an email from Mike, his German pen pal. And then Cooper's like, why are you still talking to this dude? He's like, oh, we become buddies, this and that, la, 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 la. And then Cooper's like, you know how these things work out, right? At some point he's going to ask, to come over and then arrange a meeting and all this stuff. And he's going to ask you, like, touch his genitals and, you're going to murder or some shit like that. So we have that scene. And then later it does jump to the party. So at the party, we have the first cameo, and this one has Matt Damon with the band Lustra that performs the song Scotty Doesn't Know. So while Scotty's standing up there watching the band, he's hearing them sing about him, and then even before they even get started, Matt Damon's like, I'm going to dedicate this one to the craziest, sexiest sex puppet, Fiona. Happy anniversary, babe. And fucking, here comes Fiona fucking run right past Scott. He's like, what the fuck? And then here comes the song Scotty Doesn't Know. And so the song's all about how he's been banging Fiona all this time behind Scott's back.
It's basically spelling out like all the details of their relationship. Like, when you tell him you're going here and we're actually in my van, it's I'm just going to say it. It's the funniest joke in the movie by far. Sadly, it peaked too early on this one. But
oh, you're so wrong, and I will prove it as we go along. So, anyways, so while that's going on, Cooper stumbles upon this chick in the hot tub. I think Candy's her name, and basically convinces her to take off her top.
No, she's already topless.
No, she's not topless.
What did you watch the original version or the unrated version?
It doesn't matter what version. She ends up topless, but she starts
No,
off
no, no, no. No. He jumps in the hot tub. She immediately covers herself up. She does not have a top on. Neither do the other two girls that were in the hot tub with her. And then he's like, "You have something on you," and you know, like, "What? I don't know. I think it's tree sap or something." And rub it right here. And no, she's already topless. She does not have to take her top off. Okay. Her and her two girlfriends are sitting in the hot tub topless when he goes in. That's why he hops in and goes, "Oh, I didn't park my car here." So.
Okay, so the version I saw must be the edited version because she's the only girl in the hot tub when he jumps in, and she has her top on already.
It's a sex comedy. I mean, really, you don't got to work too hard to, like, you know, oh, a bunch of chicks sitting around in a hot tub with the tops off. Woo, scandal. It's you know, just saying.
Right. Well, of course, it's not scandalous for us, you know, because we grew up with these types of movies. You know, we had Porky's and other movies like that, you know, where there's tits all over the place. You know, Revenge of the Nerds, you know, tits and bush everywhere.
In the late 70s and early 80s, the hallmark of every great horror film was you always got, like, great boobs. Somewhere in the film. There's a lot of people dying, and a great pair of boobs are going to be shown to you. That was the reason why you chomped down, you know, you dropped down your $3.25. One of those dollars was for the boobs. And the other $2.25 was for all the murder and mayhem and some of the really, you know, like, foul language and bad jokes. And that's the economic breakdown of a proper 80s horror film. But
it's kind of the same thing with 80s comedy. You paid for the boobs and you paid for, you know, the lowbrow humor and jokes and things like that and the crazy situations, which is why I like this movie. And then we have the next morning.
No. You have the night because he comes back from the party and he's trashed. Right. And he sees the email from Mika. Mail, motherfucker. And he reads it, and he's like, "Oh, he was right." And so he responds back, "I don't ever want to see you, and you're never going to meet," and, you know, calls him a freak and all this stuff, and then passes out on the bed. And wakes up the next morning to his little brother coming in on his computer and, like, you know, basically telling him, "Look, Mika's a girl." And he's like, "What do you mean Mika's a girl?" Pulls the photo out, and it's, you know, the dude who he thought Mika was, and the hot blonde girl. And he's like, "No, Mika's a girl's name, you idiot. And if you like actually paid any kind of attention in German class, you would know that they're using feminine pronouns in this email. So how do you not know you're talking to? I'm in German 1, and I know this." So let's see. The twins have already made plans to go to Europe. That's their big graduation gift, their summer before they go away to college. And they decide that they're going to go to Europe as well. And voila, that's how the whole story kicks off. Is, you know, they can't afford airfare, so they decide to go to work for a courier company, and they can't go directly to Berlin. The closest they have goes to London, so they take that gig and fly to London, and now they have to, like, trek through Europe to get to Berlin, to get to Mika. It's all very weird and stalkery if you think about it.
It is. And when you look back, when you look on it on 2020 eyes, it's a little creepy. Sure.
So,
but this is a sex comedy. So when they're there in England, it's like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to check this out? Check this out? It's like, no, there's no drinking age here in England. So they go to a bar. They go to the Feisty Goat. And so they go into the Feisty Goat. And then they find out that it's a members-only club for the Manchester United soccer team. And so to prove that they're Manchester United supporters, they must sing the Manchester United song, which Scotty breaks into.
My baby takes the morning train.
Apparently it's good enough to impress Vinnie Jones. He's like, pretty damn good, lads. And they get drunk. They have a good old time. They wake up the next morning on a bus. And like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? So they go downstairs and talk to Danny Jones, and he's like, you guys got a little fucked up, but we brought you with us so you wouldn't miss on the game. I was like, what game? Well, Manchester United's taking on whatever French team they're going to take on, so they're heading over to Paris.
And they realize that the twins are in Paris because they're supposed to be going to the Louvre and checking out everything there. So they're like, oh, okay, well, this satisfyingly ended up with us being on course, so let's just go with it.
So they decided to go to the Louvre. So they go to the Louvre, and it's a mile-long line. The camera stops to bounce up and down on this, cute. I'm assuming is a French girl. Don't know. She's pretty dark skinned, but whatever. She's cute.
She could have been Spanish. I don't know. She was hot.
Yeah.
She could have been French. She could have been Spanish. She could have been Italian. She could have been, Greek. I don't know.
We'll say that she was European.
Sure, let's go with that.
So they get back to the line where the four of them are at, and they notice they got this creepy mime robot doing some mime moves and shit like that. And
yeah.
And it just weirds Cooper out, and Sky's like, what's wrong, Cooper? It's because he's doing this.
It weirded me out. I have to. Okay, wait. I'm just gonna say this, and I mean this sincerely. This gag went on entirely too long. It wasn't that funny, and I don't know why they spent so much time with the mime gag. I really don't. It's like it just went on and on and on and on, and it ends up with a glorious kick in the mime balls. But I mean, it was a satisfying ending. But I just they could have locked 2 minutes out of that. They just needed to have one single dance move and then an insulted French robot mime and then a good old fashioned kick in the junk, and it would have worked. It would have been funnier if it had been shorter.
I'm going to disagree. I like the mime fight battle, especially when you got the little Asian guy playing this little thing with the sticks. I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was funny as fuck. And yes, getting kicked in the robot balls was fucking great. Yeah. So wait, I very much enjoyed it.
Sober when you watched this movie?
The first time, no, but when I watched it the other night before this recording, I still laughed.
So,
yeah, I don't know. Again, I love a good sex comedy, so here we are.
Go ahead. So take it from France. So
okay, so let's see here. So after the mime fight, they're at a restaurant, and they're going to kind of decide what their plans are. So they convince the twins to go along with them on this adventure. They go to the train station. They get on the train, and that's where they run into
the Italian guy.
Yes, the Italian guy, Fred Armisen. So here comes Fred Armisen. I was like, "Buongiorno." It's like you realize there's other empty cards. So I was like, "Oh yeah, see," and gets comfortable and puts his hand on Jamie's knee. He's like trying to move his knee around and trying to get his arm off. And he's like, "Hey, dude," and he's like,
"Oh, mi scusi.
Oh, scusi. Oh shit! Me and Scotty were saying that for years. We still say it every now and then. But every time we call each other on the phone, it's usually either buongiorno or if we're feeling kind of saucy, Bon Jovi. Oh, Bon Jovi.
And the running gag through that one is every time they go through a train a tunnel on the train, he's either touching somebody inappropriately or he's removing articles of clothing, and that gag had me laughing out loud. I have to admit that was really funny, and it was really well played. It's probably it's definitely one of the best jokes of the movie.
Yes.
That's what I got for you on that one. So then they get to Amsterdam, and God, I can't remember any of their names.
So Cooper
Cooper, thank you. Yeah.
Cooper goes to find some place to get laid, so he ends up at Club Vandersex with Lucy Lawless. If you want to go through this little exchange.
Oh, the best part, he has a flyer that he got on the street, and it's got a thing on there about free T-shirts, and so he walks in and he's like surrounded by all these scantily clad, really attractive women, and then he says something about oh, well, the flyer said there's a free T-shirt, and Lucy Lawless immediately goes, oh,
he was American.
An American. and so this group of lovely ladies escort him back into this room. He asks for the thunder sex, or the was it thunder sex?
Thunder sex.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that word. And so they walk him back into this room, and they strap him down, and Lucy Lawless is like, we're not going to stop doing what we're doing until you say this safe word, and it's this really long Fundesflagen or something like that.
It's kind of like 30 characters long or something like that. It's something absurd.
She sticks it in his pocket, and he's surrounded by all these hot women. He's like, oh, we're not going to need that. I'm good to go. And then, Lucy Lawless says,
On thunder sex!
All the girls leave, and two dudes come in black rubber aprons with
big dudes.
What appears to be a jackhammer with 3 dildos on it. and yeah, it is cleverly edited and hilariously done.
So, anyways, while they're in Amsterdam, Jen and Scotty break off to go to a what they think is a hash bar.
Yeah. And
so they order what they think is hash brownies, and so they eat the whole plate of brownies, and then all of a sudden, they start freaking out. Jen thinks she's getting the munchies, so she's stealing the people across them their food. Scott's like, I'm freaking out. He takes his shirt off and he's like, starts making confessions like, I saw gay porn once. The girls never came. And so the missus freak out. The Rastafarian comes out. I was like, what's going wrong? What's wrong? And this guy's like, you sold us a bad batch of hash brownies. You're a bad Rastafarian. He's like, these are hash brownies.
We do not serve hash brownies here. We are simply Dutch bakery. Now put your clothes back on, white boy.
Oh wait, and then the other twin, what is his name? Matt?
Jamie,
thank you. I don't know why I think it's
Jen
Matt.
and Jamie.
Jamie has gone to a camera shop, and the girl in the camera shop he's gone there to buy a battery, I think, for the camera. And the girl in the camera shop is really impressed with his camera. It's a Leica 7. It's got all the newest, latest, greatest features. And because his camera has such a telescoping lens on it, she decides she's going to take a smoke break and take him with her. And he has like all their passports and their money and this and that. And she's a real camera enthusiast. So while he's getting blown by the camera enthusiast girl, he gets robbed. And while he's getting robbed, he's saying stuff to the girl who the robber thinks, he's saying it to him. It's funny. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to go too deep in it. I don't want to quote it or anything. It's much funnier in context. Watch that scene. It's just better that way.
So the robber's Dietrich Bader. You'll recognize him from a bunch of different stuff. My favorite part of that whole thing going on is when she started to go down. He's like,
"Oh, gosh, you really like cameras."
So the next morning, they all meet back at the park bench. They started off in Amsterdam, and Cooper walks up to this Club Vandersex shirt, and he's like, "Where'd you get that from?" I don't want to talk about it. And then Jamie starts throwing up this big old smile on his face. Is like, yeah, I got robbed, but I had a great time. So So they're hitchhiking, and then a truck pulls over with a German guy driving. I'm assuming he's German because he speaks German.
Yeah. You find out how bad Scott's German really is.
Yes.
Because the conversation that they have, it's hilarious to read. But there's what Scott thinks he's saying, and then there's what the guy is actually saying, and how Scott was able to have a correspondence with Mika and make anything out of it is staggering at this point. But basically it boils down to Scott keeps asking him, hey, or going to Berlin, and the truck driver is saying, you know what, I what killed a man, I'll never go anywhere near Berlin.
Yeah.
And Scott thinks that this man's offering him a ride, so they climb into the back of the truck. And when they show like where they're actually driving to, it is what Bratislava? Bratislava. Yeah. So they wind up in this like complete third world dump. I'm not being mean, but they definitely portray it as crime ridden and overrun and poor and everything else. And they realize at that point that they're not in Berlin. Yeah. Obviously, it takes them a little bit to figure out that they're not in Berlin. and when they do realize that they're not in Berlin, they decide to pool all their money together, and they have $1.87 between the four of them. And they're like, what are we going to do with $1.87? And they immediately cut to them in a luxury hotel and getting tailored clothes. And, someone's like, oh, hey, be thankful for that exchange rate. And
I love it when he tips the maitre d' a nickel. Yeah. He's like, see what I got? I'll open my own hotel. Like, bitch slaps his boss.
That whole bit is actually, I think, the second funniest sequence in the film. That one actually did have me laughing out loud, and it just got funnier and funnier as it went. And then they decide to go to a club in Bratislava or wherever they are.
Bratislava!
Yes, and they decide that they're going to try absinthe, which apparently they've never done before. And they wind up getting really shitty on absinthe, and then the twins wind up making out.
Yes.
And I don't know.
The next morning, they get picked up by a guy who they actually meet earlier in Bratislava. He's a guy that likes American. He is the guy that plays Boris the Blade in Snatch.
Okay, that's why I recognized him.
Yeah. I can't remember the actor's name, but we'll put it underneath there when I show his name. That's his name.
This guy.
So he gives them a ride to Berlin. So they finally arrive at Berlin. So Scotty and Cooper go up to Mika's apartment, and they find out that Mika isn't there. She decided the last second, instead of going to America, she's going to do like a sailing trip or a cruise or some type of cruise.
Yeah, basically like she's going to the Vatican and Rome, and then she's going to be at sea for the next several months. I don't remember the exacts of that, but it's the whole thing's not about that anyway. It's about the kid in the background. And I'm just going to leave that one right there. So after all that, they head to Rome. And I think they fly to Rome.
They do. Jamie sold his camera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was going to say, where the hell did they get the money from? And then I'm like, yeah, he sold his camera. Never mind. It did its job. And so anyway, so they go to Rome and they go to the Vatican, and they're trying to find the tour group that Mika is with, and they can't get in because the entrance is for tour groups only. So they convince the the Swiss guard that Cooper is special needs person.
Oh yeah, yes.
So he allows them to go in because oh damn it! What Jamie is like? Oh, I'm the tour guide.
For so many times, the guy they hasn't memorized, so he just starts writing off quotes and stuff like that. And they get inside, but no sooner they get inside, the guard walks up to him again. They think, "Oh shit, we're busted." And it's like, "No, this group's tour guide couldn't make it, so can you take them?" So Jamie takes them on a tour while Cooper and Scotty run off to find Mika's group.
Yeah, and it's the College of Cardinals, and this is like, when a pope dies, this bell gets rung, and then when they elect a new pope, there's a chimney, and a white puff of smoke comes out to let everybody know that a new pope has been elected. Well, naturally, Cooper, being an idiot, he's, oh, hey, I wonder what pulling this does. So he rings the bell that lets everybody know that the Pope is dead. And then they wind up in the papal chambers, and a hat catches on fire. They're like messing with the Pope's wardrobe, and he puts a hat on, and it catches on fire, and he throws it in a chimney, and naturally a white puff of smoke comes out. And then while trying to, mess with a curtain, the gold curtain falls, and Scotty winds up out on a balcony, and he's got a Pope's hat on, and he's wrapped in a gold drape with the curtain rod, which just happens to look exactly like, one of the Pope's outfits. So everybody's like, oh, it's the new Pope.
So while he's out there, he sees Mika, and he yells at her and throws the Pope garb off, jumps on the fabric and slides down. And I was like, Mika, a maiden, come to meet you. She's like, who are you? Scott, your pen pal. Like, oh, okay. And he gives like this whole speech, and you're not sure if he won her over or not.
And the next thing you know, they're in a confessional, bumping uglies, and Carla from Cheers it comes in for confession, and then she gets a face full of ass.
It's the lady that plays
yeah, Carla from Cheers. It's Rhea Perlman.
No, it's not Rhea Perlman. It's the girl, the lady from the Austin Powers movie. She plays Frau in Austin Powers.
I thought that was Rhea Perlman. I really did.
No, you're way off. Well, not way off. It is a short, dark-haired, older lady. But we'll put her name down at the bottom too.
Mindy Sterling.
Is that her name? I never knew what her name was.
Yeah, Mindy Sterling is credited as the lady in the confessional. Okay, wait a minute.
But
in fairness, I want you, like, when you're editing this, put a picture of Carla from Cheers and Mindy Sterling. There's a very similar look to both of these ladies.
I'll let you watch it, and then I'll let you tell me, you know what, they don't look anything alike. Take it out before I post it.
In passing. Anyway.
So anyway,
it's a mistake to look at her and go, oh, that's Carla from Cheers, because she does look a bit like Rhea Perlman. So,
all right. So, anyways, so they have that whole scene, and then they're all at the airport. They're all getting ready to go back home. You find out then that when Jamie was given a tour, he gave the tour for Arthur Fromer, the guy who wrote all the books that Jamie goes through all the time, reads. And so he's getting paid to go around and tour Europe and add things to Fromer's stuff. And then everybody else is going back home. So they get back home, and it's a little bit later. So I guess it's like the beginning of the school year. You see Cooper and Jen, they hook up.
No. They don't hook up. They become an item. They hook up in plane, but they're an item because it's 3 months after their trip ended, and they're still together. So they're big.
Yeah. So they're together. I was going to say that you cut me off.
Fair enough.
So anyway, so they're an item. And so they call Scotty. Scotty's at Oberlin College, and he's waiting for his. He's unpacking, and he's supposed to meet his new roommate. And so he gets a knock on the door, and it's Mika. And he's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to college here." He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Well, where are you staying at?" Room 214. Well, this is room 214. How'd that happen? Oh, well, they must have thought I was a dude. Well, who would ever make that mistake? So the joke comes full circle at the end.
Yeah, it does, but I don't know that it was particularly satisfying.
No, I'll give you that. That was probably the weakest joke out of the whole movie.
So, no, there's a couple of weak sauce jokes in there. I'm gonna say this, and I not trying to beat on this movie, but this movie has not aged well. It is very dated in its sensitivities and a lot of its attitudes, but it's also very dated in that a lot of it's just not terribly funny at this point. There's some good stuff in there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating, but I bring this up because a movie that I really love and I rewatch like to the point to where it annoys people is Waiting. Waiting.
I watched that not too long ago too.
Waiting is one of those movies that, like, you know, nothing in the restaurant business has really changed all that much. And that is genuinely some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I still laugh my ass off every time I watch that movie. This one, I had a couple of chuckles. You know, there was like, oh, yeah, I remember that part. Oh, yeah. But it was like, when it was all said and done, it was just kind of like, what are we going to talk about when we talk about this movie? Because there's not really a lot that goes on, and short of quoting all the jokes in the movie, it's not like there's like deep characters or a big plot or anything. So,
I mean, well, it is a sex comedy. I mean, you go into it for, you know, two things, tits and comedy.
Well,
I mean, come
get
on.
that.
And on that,
I
a
understand
teen
that.
sex comedy on top of that, you know? So, I mean, expectations. Come with expectations.
Okay, wait.
Up here, you know, expect some highbrow shit. You came to the wrong place. If you came to expectations here of, like, you know, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, shit like that, you're right there. It's a stoner comedy.
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, the first one. Everything after that is trash.
It's dog shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's basically them trying to cash in on the same joke over and over again. But Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, I prefer. Waiting is an infinitely funnier movie than this, and it doesn't feel dated. Waiting is like weirdly timeless.
Well, Waiting actually does have character arcs and character development and things like that.
Yeah.
So it is a very good movie. Absolutely.
It's a very good movie. It's a very compelling watch. It's and you're right. Every character does have an arc, and like all of them. And there's like a plethora of characters in that movie. And on top of all that, the humor doesn't feel forced. It doesn't come off as, you know, just setting all this crap up for a joke, or like doing something completely absurd for a joke. And so, you know, for me, like, I watch Waiting and I still laugh. I mean, no one's ever going to get over the scene of the chick that sends her dinner back to the kitchen. You know, how hard is it to do your job? If you can watch that movie and then go to a restaurant and fuck with the waitstaff, you're a braver person than I am.
Yes, you are.
I'm just going to say that, you know, we had that very long, deep discussion about Anthropoid, and, you know, we're talking about, like, you know, that was a $9 million movie in 2016 money. This is a $25 million film in 2004 money, and in spite of all that, this movie did not make money, and none of the cast has really gone on to do anything. And the other thing is the guy that played Cooper. He comes off like, do you remember the dude that played Shaggy in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, and he was also in Scream and all those flicks?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but Cooper comes off like he was written for that guy.
I can see that.
And the guy that plays Cooper, he's not. It's not that he's a bad actor. It's not that he's even unfunny. It's that he just comes off like Shaggy Light. You know what I mean?
Okay.
This very much comes off like it was written for Freddie Prinze Jr. as Scotty, and
I can
Cooper
totally see
as
that
played
too,
by.
Scotty's got that, dark, slender, dark hair, slender build. I'll buy into that.
Yeah, it feels like it was written for a cast that was a little bit tighter with their comedic timing, and they passed on it. So they're like, well, let's get people that kind of have that vibe, but cost us a lot less because we're filming in Prague. And we've only got 25 million to spend. But I mean, like, the main cast, it's not that they're untalented. It's not that they're not. It's like they just all come off as like Freddie Prinze Jr. light.
No, you're right. I'll agree you there.
Except for Michelle Trachtenberg, she's the only one that really stands out in the group as like uniquely her own person. But at the same time,
she's also the only girl. She's the only girl in that cast, that main cast.
Well,
so,
sure. Well,
so
there's only 4 main characters, but I mean, it's it is what it is. But
here's what I'm going to say about this. I'll start with the cast first, since we're talking about that. That cast is like the sum is greater than the parts. There's great chemistry between them. You totally believe that they're buddies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no denying that. You totally buy that Scotty and Cooper are best friends, been friends for a long time, and you believe that they're friends with the twins. I mean, there's great chemistry there. Now each individually, not that great, because like Scotty, the guy that plays Scotty, is not a great actor. Cooper's funny. Cooper's good, but he's not an actor that's going to stand on his own for sure. Michelle Trachtenberg is the same thing. A talented actress, but not something that can stand on her own. The same thing with Jamie. I mean, that's pretty much the cast. As far as the movie itself, I still think it's absolutely hilarious. Granted, it was in a time of my life where I was younger, so it may be a nostalgic thing, totally. And I'll agree with you. The first time you watch this movie, you should absolutely be stoned or drunk or something like that. Absolutely. And not because it's a bad movie, but just because it's that type of movie. I mean, you don't go into a drama, with expecting laughs and fun and stuff like that, or go into that stone. You should go into the stone. You should go into this movie like if you're watching Cheech and Chong for the first time. You should be fucking high.
Like I said, it's a perfectly fine movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just, this is a Sunday afternoon. I don't want to think, oh, screw it, I'll throw this on a movie. And that's the best I'm willing to give you. It's not hilarious. It's not like, change the world. It's not a change how people, think about. Waiting is an infinitely funnier film than this. Airplane is a funnier film than this. Young Frankenstein is a funnier film than this.
Airplane
I'm gonna say that the original
film. Airplane was a dated film. The next year came out when it was Airplane 2.
Oh yeah.
And all the jokes fucking died.
Oh.
That's how bad that movie dated itself.
So, but I mean, not to get too far off the beaten path. I mean, there's not a lot of comedies that are seen as timeless. Comedy's hard to do right the first time.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, Waiting is still relevant because people still work at corporate restaurant bullshit jobs. Clerks is still relevant because there's still shitty local convenience stores and you're still getting the same stupid customers asking the same stupid questions. So here's my advice. If you are going to make a comedy, make it about something that's timeless and relatable.
All right. Do you have any more thoughts on this?
Again, there's not a whole lot to talk about on this one. Okay. I mean, like I said, it's an
enjoyable
enjoyable
watch. I'll give my final thoughts.
Go for it.
Okay. I still recommend I recommend while you're high or drunk for your first watch. I don't think it's necessary, but I feel like if you're gonna watch some absurd bullshit, you may be in that type of mood for absurd comedy. I agree with you. Waiting is a good movie. Clerks is a fantastic movie, and I think the reason why those work too is, like I said, they're relatable because they're about jobs. It seems like comedies about work, like Office Space, comedies like that, tend to age better, even though some of the things in those movies are dated. Like in Office Space, they're preparing for Y2K and all that stuff. I bet most kids don't know what the fuck Y2K even is or what the hell it's even about. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's still a great, funny movie. So yeah, it seems like comedies about occupations definitely seem to work better and stand up or stand the test of time more. Is there a modern equivalent to this? Is there a modern teen sex comedy recently that you've seen that is halfway decent?
Honestly, I think like the modern sex comedy, by and large, is kind of a dead thing. People are too sensitive about the topic, to be perfectly honest. I mean, for all the talk of sexual openness and blah 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 blah, it just feels like the world has become much more prudy. So
Yeah.
it's okay to be gay or bi or trans or this or that. Oh my God, if a girl shows her boobs on film, it's exploitative now. So
Yeah.
it's
Here's a funny thing that I saw. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was when I was doing some research, there was a comment from a review critic. It's like, every girl in the movie that has less than 2 lines of dialogue is topless. I'm like, okay, you can say that, but did you see the scene where there's like 50 dudes with swinging dicks all over the place? Did you totally miss that scene where there's full frontal nudity and cock all over the place?
You brought up like the reviewer that's saying any girl with less than 2 lines of dialogue shows her boobs, and I was thinking, that's not just films like this. It's not just comedies. It's not just. Take a look at the horror genre. You can't even make a fucking rated R horror film anymore. Like 8 out of 10 of them are PG-13 because they've got to get those 16 and 17-year-olds in the theater. So they got to cut it down. They can't make it too gratuitous or too. Now, when it comes out on Blu-ray, they can stick all that shit back in.
But even then, when they do an unrated version of that PG-13 movie, all of this is like just a little more blood and gore. There's no nudity there. There is no nudity there. Now that is, I think you'll agree, to the detriment of the genre.
Oh, absolutely. But see, this is where the business is overshining the show in show business. This is where the money guys are trying to maximize their return on investment. So they're trying to make it as palatable to as wide an audience as possible. It's not just comedies and it's not just horror. Niche entertainment is fucking dead.
So that being said, Tony, what are we reviewing next?
We are watching 2018's The Endless, an independent horror film that I'm very enthusiastic about, and I don't think that Mike has actually seen it. Hopefully this turns out a little bit better than the Anthropoid one did.
So, anything else?
That's it. That's all I got for you, man.
All right, cool. We'll see you guys next time.